Huzzah, and welcome, future and current artists, to another episode of Drawing with Dr. Doodle. Well, before we begin, you're only going to need two items. Hopefully you have these, a piece of paper and a pencil. Now, if you want to color your work in when we're done, and you have a crayon or a colored pencil or markers, you can color it in when we finish today. However, if you don't have those supplies right now, you can always wait to color your work in when you get those supplies. So you know what? Let's begin. Hello and welcome to another episode. Today you're going to be following along as I share with you how you can take an idea that you created on a separate piece of paper, a rough draft if you will, and then potentially trace it either onto another piece of paper or bring it into your digital device like my iPad Pro. And that's what I did here with my iPad Pro. I actually drew a rough draft, a sketch, and I drew it on a piece of paper, took a picture of it, and put it on my iPad Pro, and now I'm inking it in and then I'll be coloring it in. And so what this allows you to do is not only practice, which is very important to get better at your work, but if you want to use your artwork for something else, or if you have a rough draft and you want to fix it up and make it look a little bit better, all you have to do is trace it. Tracing your own artwork is not cheating at all, and do not worry about that. So I'm going to talk to you about my inking techniques. Everybody has a different set of techniques that they use and different styles that they use, but one that I think helps out the most if you want to make sure that your work doesn't look flat when you ink in your work. And inking in, again, is just tracing your lines with a pen or a paintbrush. And so when you're inking in, to make it not be flat, what you're going to want to do is make sure that your lines change thickness from thin to thick, thick to thin. And usually the best way to do this, kind of guide or cheat, is to make sure the parts of your lines are thicker when they are overlapping other parts of that drawing. So for instance, with the elephant right here, for example, that is, not instance, sorry. But for example, with the elephant here, you can see how I traced over its trunk a little bit thicker as it crosses over its own body. That way, the thing that's in the foreground, the thing in front, the trunk, pops out from the thing behind it, which is the rest of his body, which will be thinner. Now, I'll tell you a secret of how I decided to choose the colors for the elephant. I decided to go with the colors of the Japanese construction crews. It's mainly yellows and grays are the colors they use, because this is supposed to be a builder or worker elephant. So in this picture, all of the animal people, the anthropomorphic animal people, are supposed to represent different jobs or careers. So this one is construction worker or a carpenter, builder. The cat next to the elephant is a photographer. The giraffe is a teacher. The penguin, I actually don't remember what later on I change, I give the penguin a job or career. It's a chef. And then it's next to a DJ bear. And then the row behind all of them, I will draw on a separate piece of paper, bring that in digitally, and you'll see that after the puzzle break. So what I would like for you to do is you could either follow along with this drawing right here, or you can come up with your own animal people with their own jobs, or draw just people with their own different jobs. Actually, a very interesting thing you can do is maybe you attempt to, if you feel up to the challenge, draw yourself, maybe your siblings if you have them, other family members who haven't decided on what jobs they want to pursue, or maybe they do have a job and you want to just show what they are. And so make them in a line and draw what they do. Make sure that you show what they do for a job or a career using the items that they use. They could be holding them as props, or the uniform that they're wearing could show what it is that they do. So as you can see here, I'm taking my time, drawing out and tracing over almost all the lines, but I'm also adding some new lines and some new details that I might have not drawn during the rough sketch. And that's the most important thing about this kind of way to create art, is if you do a rough sketch and then you take a break, it could be an hour, a couple of minutes, a couple of hours, or a day, or a couple of days, or a week, or months, or a year, whatever. Whenever you come back from that break, you'll be able to have enough energy to work on a lot more details than you might have initially drawn in the rough sketch. And now if you are tracing it over with an inking pen of some kind, something that's permanent, unlike with this digital inking pen, which is very easy to erase, you'll want to be as sure as possible that you are ready to finalize the lines. If not, you might want to, if you're just doing this on paper, you might want to trace over your rough sketch with pencil, and that way it'll look a lot cleaner, nicer, you can add more details, and you'll be able to still erase any of your lines. So again, you can see here, I'm not always comfortable or happy with some of the lines I've made. I constantly go back and erase and change. And that's a key to making your final artwork from a rough draft become finalized, is to understand and be comfortable. Understand that, excuse me. That was because I was eating some tortilla chips just before and my throat got dry. Anyway, so what you want to understand is that with art, you're never, as an artist, you're never always going to be happy with your own artwork. You're going to be, as an artist, you're always going to be hard on yourself and your artwork. But to make sure that you complete work and finish your artwork, you have to internalize that, understand that, and that way you will realize that whenever you're working on something, it's just art. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean that it reflects poorly on you. You're not a bad artist. It's just practice. And so as long as you are willing to either start over or erase what you're doing, but like change what you're doing, so that way you learn what works and what doesn't. Once you have those things down, you will be able to grow as an artist. And again, it's important that you see that, like right here, I'm erasing what I had already did, the lines I had already drawn for the foot of the cat, because I didn't like how it looked. I didn't think it looked as good as it could have. And you'll see that with a lot of the lines that I'm going to be drawing or inking in or tracing over here. So know that even at 36 years old, I still am not fully happy with my work most of the time, and I make mistakes. We all do, and that's being human. You make mistakes. So I hope that you're able to follow along. I don't expect you all to be able to copy my work, so hopefully maybe you're drawing or motivated to draw your own creatures, your own animal humans that have their own jobs in a line like this, almost like in a photo shoot. And I can't wait to see what you all have to share. So I'm trying to think of any questions that you might have or any things that I can share with you, so that way while you're watching this, I could potentially answer those questions or help you out. All right, something came to mind. If any of you have read or read comic books, there is somebody whose whole job is to trace or ink in the artist's work, and that's called an inker. And as an inker, they can change or add or subtract from the original artist's work. It's a separate type of talent. You can, if that's something that you're interested in, you could draw something out or copy something and then try to ink over it and see the different ways that you could ink in the work. And as you can see here with the front hoof or front arm and hoof of the giraffe, I wasn't too happy with it. Looked a little bit too small and short, so I made it so that way it was wrapped around the book that the giraffe is holding, the giraffe teacher. Now, with another inking tip that I can give you is when you are inking over things that are thin or small, you'll want to use thin lines. You don't want it to be too thick, or else it will flatten what it is, and that's what you can see with the pages of the book. And also with the part of the arm that is wrapping around the book right there. And as you can see, I've changed it, I want to say 4 or 5 times already, and the pocket is smaller and behind the arm, so I made it thin line, so that way it doesn't detract from the arm. And now 3 times is the charm with regards to the fur on the back of the giraffe's neck and head. And I'm taking my time, and that's all that you can do, is just take your time. And here's another thing too, is if you get either bored or you lose motivation, or you just get tired, or you're hungry, or you just need a break of any kind, take a break. It's just because you stop doesn't mean that you're done with your artwork. You can take a break, and when you come back again, you'll have more energy, you'll have more motivation, and maybe because you're coming back to the work and you're not too focused on the work when you first come back to it, maybe you'll be able to see it with new eyes, and you'll realize the mistakes that you've made, and you'll be able to change the mistakes that you made. So for instance, just there, the penguin I felt was a little bit too high. I wanted it to be a little bit lower or shorter. So because it's digital, it's on my iPad, I was able to grab the penguin and what I already drew and bring it down. And there you go. I'm giving it a chef hat. I realized I didn't give it a job or a career yet. Penguins are my favorite animal, by the way. What's your favorite animal? Maybe that's what you do. Maybe you only draw one animal person and it's your favorite animal. A friend of mine loves this DJ bear. They feel that DJ bear best represents them as a person. And I have another friend who loves the photography cat. I actually made the elephant builder or construction worker based off of my dad, who loves woodworking and building. So I actually call him Bruce the Elephant after my dad. Now, while I don't feel like the bear best represents me, it was one of my favorite to create, and it was the easiest for me. It just felt very natural, and I don't feel like I had a hard time in drawing or knowing like what the bear was going to look like. I actually visualized the bear a lot easier than some of the other animals. And it's, if you can't tell, that's a hoodie. It's wearing a hoodie along with wireless earphones, headset, and those are the straps to pull on the hoodie, and that's those are pockets that are a little bit hanging low. And yeah, I just had a lot of fun with this. This was very easy for me, and I actually, during my lunch break while at school, I sketched out this picture and then I took it home and I worked on it that night, the same day that I created the rough draft, the sketch. That night I did all this work on this one, and then the next set of characters that are going to go in the back row I drew the next day during my lunch break on another piece of paper as a rough draft, and I was able to bring it home that same night and start coloring it in as well. And as you can see, as I'm coloring it in, for those who don't see this or don't understand what I'm doing, I'm deciding on a color. I'm using what I call a flat color. I color in with a flat color, and then I go in using a darker color and then a lighter color. So the flat colors are first. You always do the flat colors first. So a purple, flat purple, not too dark, not too light. And then you can add some shadows, which will be the darker version of that color. So a darker purple, and then a lighter purple for the highlights where the light is hitting it. And then for shadows, I tend to use like a purplish blue, dark purplish blue, wherever the light is hitting it on the opposite side of that. Now, with regards to colors, you want to make sure, if you want your artwork to not only stand out and be dynamic, I know I use that word a lot, you'll want to, there's something called color design. It's actually a thing. What it means is to keep track of what colors are being used and what colors are put next to each other, and it will affect how people, your viewers, will see your artwork and if they will find it attractive or not. We've already gone over in class that there are complementary colors. It's just like it sounds like. There are colors that complement each other, meaning that they work well together. Orange and blue are complementary, red and green, purple and yellow. So an easy way out is to think about the colors. Oh, I really love how this DJ Bear came out, especially with the coloring. But you want to think about the colors that you're using, and you want to think about where the colors are and where you've placed them with relationship to each other. So that was one of the things too, was I was trying to see and work around the colors that I used on one animal next to the other, and tried to have some unique colors and some similar colors, so that way your eye was drawn to some of the similar colors as well. So now I'm doing the shadows. Take your time. Again, if you are working on this and it's already taking an hour or two, and you're tired or you just need to take a break, and you could come back to this again. I'm trying to think of how long it took me to work on this. I want to say this took me 5 hours for just these 5 characters. And as you can see here, when you have flat colors, highlights and shadows, it really pops out the picture. And when you're adding your shadows, you want to understand where the sun or the light source is shining, so that way you can have the shadows on the opposite side. Again, shadows are just the absence of light. So when light source hits an object, a shadow will be on the other side, because what's happening is the object is blocking the light. So the light is hitting the object on one side, and on the other side, that light source is blocked, and that's why a shadow is cast. So there won't just be shadows underneath your characters, which they need to be. They will be, like with the cat girl photographer, there are shadows underneath her hair because her hair is blocking the light. The light is hitting the hair, and then there's no more light like directly underneath it. But if you don't have shadows underneath your characters, just like right now we don't have with these animal characters, then it's going to look like they're just floating in space. They're not grounded. And now I'm adding the shadows to the other animal creatures, animal people. And this was one of my favorite, most recent artworks that I did. I really enjoyed creating these. and now I'm adding the shadows underneath them, and I hope that when we come back from our puzzle break, you will be able to work a little bit more with me or enjoy the work I'm about to do with another row of animal people. As an artist, it's a good idea to take a break from your work. Taking a break allows us to look at our work with fresh eyes and possibly with some new ideas. So that's why we're going to take a puzzle break. And what type of puzzles are we going to do on Drawing with Dr. Doodle? Well, we're going to tackle puzzles that I love to do. They're called Rebus Puzzles. Rebus is spelled R-E-B-U-S. And what is a Rebus puzzle? Well, I'm glad you asked. Behind me is an example of just one, and we're going to walk through the solution to this puzzle right now. So what word do you see behind me? Well, take your time. If you guessed the word behind me is hurry, then you're half right. What direction is the word hurry going in? Well, take some more time to solve that. Well, if you guess that the word hurry is going up, then you have half of the solution as well. So let's combine the two half answers or half solutions that we solved together. Hurry, so we've got the word hurry, and the word hurry is going up. And if you heard me just say that and it clicked in your head that the answer is hurry up, then you have solved this rebus. So with that out of the way, why don't you try to solve this puzzle by yourself, but you don't need to hurry up to solve this puzzle. Take your time, and if you get your parents' permission, you can email the solution to thedoodledoctor@gmail.com. Now let's get back to the lesson. Well, I hope that you enjoyed today's puzzle. And as you can see, we have, I've already begun in this video tracing over the row of new animal people behind the first five. And so we have in the back row an octopus doctor, or Dr. Octopus. I am a big fan of Spider-Man. Behind the penguin chef, there is a dog who is a grounds worker. Behind the giraffe and cat is a turtle who is an emergency worker. And then a postal worker bird, I want to say a parrot, is behind the elephant and the cat up top. So again, it's 4 more animal people, and I drew them the next day after I drew the first 5. I drew a rough draft on a piece of paper during my lunch break, and then I was able to start tracing them, brought them into my iPad Pro in the same document, and so I traced them here. And I decided to, because they're in the back row, not to use black, but to use a dark kind of navy blue when I trace them, so that way they the viewpoint is more focused on the first 5, and the animals in the back, the 4, kind of fade into the background a little bit. So you're more focused on the first 5 animals. So now that you see what I've been doing here, you see all the details that I've been adding and taking my time, and that's part of why I like this. And it's funny, as an artist, it depends. Sometimes your motivation is there first, and that gets you to add as much detail into your artwork. But sometimes the motivation isn't fully there, and what happens is you draw something, you doodle something, or you sketch something, and then you really are interested in what you made, and then the motivation comes. And so I don't remember what came first, my motivation, or if it was after seeing what I drew that I gained motivation from enjoying what I had created. And sometimes that happens. And so that's why it's important to try to play drawing games when you're not motivated, to keep you constantly creating. For instance, the line game, the shape game, where you draw a line or you draw the shape, or somebody else does, and then you try to draw something using that line or shape to create something else. Maybe it will inspire you to do something that you didn't think was possible. You could do the eye game with somebody or by yourself. You can draw eyes and then try to figure out what it is that has those eyes. But another thing too that you can do is just look around you, look in your room, look in your house, look outside, or look up online some pictures of things, or look at your pictures and try to draw from those. And you might be motivated to draw from those and then maybe draw something from your imagination based on the things that you have seen. Because that's how, as artists, we can create, is taking what we have learned and applying it to our own artwork. So as you can see here, I am busy working on the details of the rake that's in, and that's what it is. It's a rake in the dog land, the grounds worker. And I really like dogs. I wish that I had a dog as a pet, but growing up I had a couple of them, and they're so loving. And so that's part of what I was trying to get with the look of this dog. It's just got that sweet face and tongue out, and it just looks very happy to be doing what it's going to do with that rake. And as you can see, I'm constantly trying to get a feel of where these animals are supposed to be in relationship to the animals that are in front of them in the row. I'm trying to make it so that way it looks like this was a posed, just shot, a group shot, that they were all in it together. So that's another thing. If you are working on something like this, what you should practice is something called overlapping. Overlapping, for those who don't remember, is just drawing one object behind the other. But the most important thing is when you overlap, you want to have an understanding of where in this, fantasy imaginary world, the thing that's being overlapped, where its parts would be. So with the case of the turtle, when you draw it, you want to know, okay, so part of its head is being blocked from view by the giraffe's leg, so we can't see the whole eye, we can't see the shoulder, but how much further past the leg would the rest of the turtle be? And when you're able to figure that out, it'll look that much more realistic. So as you can see, I'm taking my time. I'm actually basing the details of the turtle off of a picture that I was looking at while I was adding the details of the turtle. And that's why I'm making those shapes where I am and how I'm doing it, is I'm basing it off of the real designs of a turtle itself. And that's what you can do. You can always, and it's not cheating, go online, look through books, see if you can find references, especially if you're drawing things based on real animals, or if you want to add details from one thing to another. So for instance, if you're drawing an imaginary creature like a dragon, but you know that dragons are supposed to be kind of like, fantasy or imaginary reptiles, you can look at pictures of reptiles to get some ideas on how you might want to design, or what kind of details you want to add, or the colors that you want to add to your dragon. So now I'm working on the Parrot postal worker. And again, the reason why I chose some of the jobs for these animals, sometimes it was based on family members or friends. Sometimes it was just because it felt like it just fit, like with the case of this bird postal worker. I was thinking about airmail, and what better way to send airmail than to be a bird that can fly. So I gave it some glasses and a scarf for when it gets too cold. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. If it doesn't come through me talking about this or even just seeing this, it was a lot of fun. I feel that the animal people just exude emotion, and when you look at them, you get a feel for a little bit who they are and, you know, obviously what kind of job that they do, especially after they're all colored in from this row. So now I'm deciding on what color everything should be in the back row. And when you're deciding on the colors for whatever artwork you're doing, like I said before, before the puzzle break, you can either just go with your gut, your instinct, your emotion, what's your favorite colors. You can go based on what it is that you're creating, what actual colors they are, or you can go with what colors work well with the thing that's in front or next to or behind the thing that you're coloring in. So you know, because the bear is mainly brown, I didn't want to have the octopus have some or a full amount of brown in it because it's a doctor. I wanted to use the colors that I know that doctors you know, uniform normally is, but I didn't want it to be a white coat, a doctor's, you know, coat, because the bear is wearing a white sweater. But maybe if I wasn't too attached to that white sweater with the bear, I could have just changed the color of what the bear was wearing, so that way the Dr. Octopus could be you know, wearing a white coat. And then I was having trouble figuring out what kind of colors I wanted the dog to be wearing, and then I realized that I wanted it to have a plaid a shirt. I believe that's what I chose. But have fun. This is your creation. The colors that you choose, the lines, the things that you draw, it's all up to you. And that's what's so beautiful about creating artwork, is that it comes from within. It's a way to communicate your feelings, your thoughts, and your ideas. It's a way to do it visually. It's very personal. That's why we as artists take it personally when people talk about our artwork, or when we look at our artwork when we're judging it. It's very easy to take it personally because it is a part of us. So that's why it's important to take your time and put as much effort and energy into it, because again, not only is it a part of us, but it reflects us as well. And if you want it to communicate exactly whatever it is that you want to communicate, then the best thing to do is to make sure that you put your all into it. That parrot, it looks so beautiful. As you can hear, I really just love the work that I created here. It's one of the very few recent artworks that I look at and I actually feel like I put my all into. I know that it couldn't have been any different, and I don't want it to be any different. I'm very happy with how it looks, and yeah, I just hope I can, when I create more things in the future, that I enjoy them as much as I enjoyed creating this. So I'm finishing this up, and with that said, I want you all to know that when you're ready, if you do create something that you enjoy as much, make sure you sign your name, because you are an artist, and I can't wait to see what you've created. Now it's time for me, Harold, the extremely talented art critic, to critique your artwork. Wait, what? I didn't agree to this. I won't be too harsh. Why, thank you. What?
Okay,
Wait.
fellow art detectives, let's get critiquing. What do you see? What do you think is happening in this artwork? What materials do you think the artist used to make this artwork? Does this remind you of anything? What questions do you have about the artwork? Pretend you can enter into the artwork. What do you see? What do you smell? What do you hear? What piece of the artwork is your favorite, and why? If you could change one thing about this artwork, what would you change? How does this artwork make you feel? Can you explain why? If you had to describe this artwork to a friend, What kind of words would you use? So, Dr. D, was that so hard now?
It wasn't hard at all, Harold. Thank you.
Is how hard I will critique him next time. Until next time, future and current artists, that's it for today. I hope that you enjoyed creating art with me and that I've inspired you to create as imaginative artwork in the future. If you'd like to have your work displayed on a future episode, obviously you need your parents' permission, but once you get it, you can email your artwork at thedoodledoctor@gmail.com. Well, bye!